Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Monday night panel. Just a couple of things. As you may have known or seen on socials, we've signed a new player today, George McEachran. I hope that's how you pronounce it. I'm sure it's not, but we'll just know him as George. One other thing, which is a bit in the future, and I will mention it a couple of times over the next few weeks, we've had notification of a charity match being held, Fareham, for John Gittins, Gittins' charity, Cancer Research. Now, it's going to be players or former players of Southampton, Portsmouth, Middlesbrough. There hasn't been any notification of who those players are yet. It's on the 16th of April, which is a Sunday, down at Fareham. They will be playing a Fareham Town team. So in aid of Cancer Research, and as I said, I'll mention it over the coming weeks as well. But if anybody wants to know anything about that, please let us know and we can send you the details on that. So it's a charity match in aid of John Gittins' charity search. Okay, let's bring Vic on. Hiya.
Hello, Chris. Hiya. I thought as it's Valentine's Day tomorrow, I'd produce just a red bottle of wine and then with a Robin wine holder. Just to make it,
that's very nice.
So,
thank you.
Chris, have a bottle of wine for Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We're going to Sutton tomorrow, so might as well have it now, mightn't we? Simple as that.
Yes, I can spend Valentine's night with you all.
Yes, that'd be lovely on that bus to Sutton. How lovely is that?
Exactly.
Just on the subject of buses, I'll get to that in a minute, but it strikes me that George McEachran is our second ever World Cup winner. I can't think of any others. Ozzy Ardiles being one, of course, and George being a member of the under-17 squad that beat Spain 5-2 in the final. So Mr. Hawes may know differently, but it strikes me now we've had two World Cup winners play for Swindon or be at Swindon. He's not actually played for us yet, so just thought I'd throw that one in. There's a little bit of
we like those those stats. That's good. So no, that's brilliant.
And as for SAS, no, I'm done SAS.
Sorry. You're all right. Okay.
If you want to open the box of wine, just wait a minute. SAS travel not open tomorrow night, of course, because of the aforementioned trip to Sutton. The coaches leave the county ground tomorrow at 3:30, but they are open on Thursday from 7 o'clock. Very limited availability for Salford and Orient. They're on sale Thursday from 7. First come, first served. Closed tomorrow, as of course we've got a game at Sutton. So very limited availability for Salford and Orient, on sale on Thursday. There we are.
Okay. Can I say something now? Am I allowed to finish?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
brilliant. Okay, so should we get our guests on? So we have Anna. We have Mark.
Hello.
We have Mr. Hawes, and we have our debutant, Mr. Baker, Phil Baker. Hi, Phil. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome to the family. So,
thank you.
Right, I will leave you. As I said, questions, leave in the comments, and we'll get through as many as we can. Okay, and I'll see you later.
Chris, thanks very much indeed. And Kevin has already said, Vic, you need that bottle of wine watching Swindon play. So here we are. I'll leave you to make of that what you will. Mr. Hawes, then, our second World Cup winner, is that about right? I can't think of any others. Ozzy Ardiles, of course, and George McEachran.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone else. I had a brief Nesta Lorenzo incident then, because he's just a finalist.
So you just played in the final. He didn't actually win it. No. There we are. Another World Cup winner joined Swindon. Mr. Hawes, good evening to you. Mark Merriman, good evening to you. I haven't tried that wine already. Anna, hello to you. And Phil, welcome to you. Thank you very much, Dee, for joining us for the first time.
Thank you, Vic.
Right. Let's start from the very beginning, as they say. Robert said Nesta Lorenzo, but he played in the World Cup final, didn't win it. They got beat by West Germany, if I remember rightly. Let's start with Saturday. Phil, as it's your debut, we'll start with you first. Your impressions of that game, the 2-0 defeat by Doncaster.
Not the most dire of the season, but very near to it. I thought the second half, they showed some more positivity about their play and then gave away 2 soft goals. And that was what worried me, that we weren't creating chances, and you're always going to be likely to give away a goal. And I felt that Charlie was starved of any service at all. In fact, I thought he looked really down in the dumps towards the end of the game. And we've got to get into their box.
Yeah, I think those points were made by Jody Morris in his post-match interviews, Anna. I mean, certainly the second, the chap was unmarked on the edge of the area and he just placed it in the corner of the net, basically. And the first, he was able to make his way in, left-footed, and again, place it into the corner of the net. I think you were quite angry Saturday, weren't you?
Yeah, for a number of reasons. I mean, we looked like a team of individuals, didn't we? I think in the first half, it was pretty turgid. The second half, as Phil mentioned, was a better display because we were moving the ball more quickly forward. And Jody Morris alluded to that, didn't he, at his halftime pitch, which was, you know, I want you to keep possession, but not tippy-tappy around at the back. And that was an improvement, but still, we didn't look like scoring. I think, did we have one or maybe two shots on target? And they were a bit sort of tenuous, weren't they? So, you know, I don't think anything is going to be instant with a new manager. And I said that when Lindsay left, but you still would have hoped, I guess, to have had a bit of a bounce. We're suffering from a bit of an injury crisis, I suppose. We've lost a couple of really key midfielders. Whatever you thought of Gladwin, he was a key man in there from many perspectives. So, you know, we need to see some pretty instant improvement if we're going to hang on to the coattails of the playoffs, I think, don't we?
Yeah, we'll get to the league positions in a minute, but I think it is fair to say Williams, Hepburn, Murphy, Shade, Lavinia, Tomlinson, all missing tomorrow night, Mark. And Paul says Saturday was bad. We just cannot compete physically with many sides in this league. Until we can, we ain't going nowhere. I mean, what was your impressions of that? I mean, the first half, I mean, again, Jody Morris watched it. He's not daft, is he? He would have seen, how many times we crossed the halfway line? That really was for me, the takeaway from that first half.
Well, it was just Lindsay Ball Mark II, wasn't it? And if anything, it was worse because, like you said, Vic, we hardly crossed the halfway line at all. And, you know, I'm tempted to say quite a lot of times the goal's at the other end, lads, you know, and you can't score a goal by just constantly passing it around at the back. Jody Morris said passing with a purpose. That was purposeless. And people will not pay good money to watch that football, I'm afraid. They really won't. So compare that to the Grimsby and to a lesser extent the Gillingham games. Not quite with the same team because we are missing a few players, I'll grant you that. But it was chalk and cheese. It was so pedestrian, laborious and predictable. And, you know, the Grimsby game was exciting. You came out of the ground thinking, that's why I go to football. It was really entertaining. You know, got fans off the seats. Saturday, just slumbering for most of the game. The second half was a bit better, but it couldn't have been any worse for the first 20 minutes. And that was about it.
Yeah, I got a point here. John says, although we were poor on Saturday, why do so-called fans leave with 20 minutes to go? I think that was around about time the second goal went in. I mean, let's have some sympathy for the poor person who might have had to commentate on that first 45 minutes, Andrew Oars. I mean, I don't know. What did you say? What did Anthony Grant say? I mean, thankfully,
Anthony Grant said quite a lot, and it wasn't all related with the game, which was probably particularly helpful. No, he wasn't impressed with Wakeling. Let's put it like that. No, we do. I think we did a lot of filling. We said it wasn't very good in a lot of different ways, and it did get a bit better in the second half, as Mark and Phil alluded to. I think if I sort of take my commentary hat off and just put my sort of fan hat on a little bit, I think the thing that worried me was perhaps the lack of response to the first goal or the second goal. Once those goals went in, there was just that kind of, it felt like there was that acceptance almost that was how the game was going to end, which I did find quite alarming. And I think whatever you generally wanted to label at the squad this season, they're kind of, whether they've been good or not, I don't think they're particularly apathetic. I don't think you've looked at them and thought they're not trying. I mean, Harrogate was pretty shambolic, but even then, I don't think they weren't trying. They were just not set up on the day. So I think that kind of worried me a bit. And if you see any more of that at Sutton, where you know it's not a great place to go, and they very much play their own way, as it were, then I'd be a bit worried.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the league table. Swindon are currently in 10th place, and they seem to be dropping let's be honest. 10th place, 29 games played, 42 points, goal difference of 5. Sutton in 13th with 30 games played, 41 points, -7 goal difference. So they could leapfrog Swindon again tomorrow should they get a victory. And then, of course, on Saturday, we got a 5th place Salford, who've got 48 points from 30. So, Phil, it doesn't get a lot better, does it? I mean, there's some difficult games coming up as well.
Well, what worried me again on Saturday was the defensive combination of Clayton and Blake Tracy. It was his worst game, Blake Tracy, on Saturday for us. He looked uncertain, not knowing who to try and prop up, whether prop up Hutton or try and help out Clayton. And that unnerves me in preparation for tomorrow night, because I think Sutton are slightly sharper up front than Doncaster. So I think they will give us a hard time.
Yeah, they drew 2 each away at Hartlepool on Saturday, of course. Let's have a look at some of the comments coming in. There are quite a few of them, as you would imagine. Right, let's have a look. Rob says Dyer. JW was the only one putting effort in. Charlie Austin had no service. Awful. As I've said before, another season in League 2 North. Hi, panel. Was excited pre-match Saturday. Depressed since. Why do we seem to go downhill after a 5-star showing? That's from Sean. PJ, I can't see anything this season. Will be as bad as Stockport away in the FA Cup, getting rained on or being battered 4-0. Saturday was bad. Oh, we've done that one about competing physically. Although we were poor on Saturday, why did Ho4 fans leave with 20 minutes to go? We've done that one, but we'll talk about that in a minute. We need some big, strong physical players. We're bullied off the park. That's from Maria. I don't know if that's the case on Saturday, Anna, was it? I mean, it seemed to me that Doncaster were able to just sit in their shape, hit on the break, and they were quite comfortable. I don't think they were particularly physical in any way.
No, I don't think we were particularly bullied on Saturday. I mean, I take the point that we're not a physical side and haven't been in the past. I know Morris said he wants us to be more in opposition places. But I just think we were more of a pushover on Saturday. Really, we didn't stand up to anyone. We didn't really, we didn't provide that threat. But they didn't come at us in that way. We just conceded those 2 very quick goals and then pretty much retreated, I would have said. So, we've obviously got to have a bit more about us than just trying to get Hutton to cross the ball for Charlie to head in. But going back to what Phil said about Blake Tracy, I think is a really interesting point, because Blake Tracy has been one of our most consistent performers this season. What you've seen in the last few games, I think, is that he's trying to take a lot on himself. And I think, we saw that on Saturday, that he made a few forays up the field, which is fine, as long as he's got good cover behind him, and we're not certain on that, are we? So there's a risk that if those around him are not performing, he's gonna try and take too much on himself and leave us out of shape at the back, I think. So I think it's a really good point that he needs a solid defensive partner, at least at centre-back, to be able to perform as he has been.
Yeah, I mean, he's up there with Sol Brenner's player of the season, isn't he? I mean, I think they're the two you would point to. Lee says we just look so slow at times. Brad says, had I stayed any longer, I'd have been pouring some liquid in my eyes. Never do that. It's not a good thing to do. Neil says, in terms of entertainment, there was 0. They were leaving far earlier than that. A lot were leaving at half time. The best we've played was under Gavin Steve. I mean, the thing is, Mark, it's very easy. I had a message on Twitter from somebody saying they're not going to watch tonight because we're going to be negative about it. Can you find anything positive from Saturday? I mean, you look first 20 minutes of the second half when we were a bit more direct. That was a positive move, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the positive move. I mean, you actually probably when Doncaster scored, arguably, it was a little bit against the run of play. But we still didn't look like scoring, did we? When you look at it, we did have, to confirm what Anna was saying earlier on, we did have 1 shot on target. That was the Johnny Williams shot from 30 yards. There was 1 that hit the post. 3 or 4 sailed over in the second half. But we literally made nothing, did we? Our final ball was awful. Charlie Austin had 1 really good header in the first half where you headed it across goal waiting for somebody to come in, but wait, there was nobody there. And the service to him in the box was lamentable, really. And the poor fella, he's just... the last 2 games has been running doggies at the age of 33. And he's just not gonna. That's not his game. Get the ball in the box and he'll score goals. That's what we've got to do somehow. I'll go back to that point that the caller made about physical players. We just get blown over in a soft breeze, don't we? We really do. We lack any kind of physical presence at all now. That includes now at centre half, Blake Tracy perhaps apart, up front, and now in midfield. We've got similar sorts of players in there, with the exception of Khan, who I do rate. I think he's a good player. We need physical players to get out of this league. Absolutely crying out for them.
Yeah, that 5 players I mentioned were all injured. Of course, is Khan back tomorrow, Andrew? I can't remember.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's back. Yeah, he's back tomorrow. Charlie Austin, Andrew, arguably the best goal scorer in the League Two. I've said so many times, the best natural goal scorer I've ever seen play for Swindon. But it's no good having a natural goal scorer if you don't get him the ball. I mean, it's that simple, isn't it?
Yeah, that really has been the problem for the last 2 games. You can understand it a little bit more when you've got 10 men against Newport, but I can't argue with what anyone said. He just didn't get service. There's that one cross really in the first half that Mark talked about where he attacked at the back post, headed it down, and you'd hope that, I think it was sort of Wakeling was on that side, would have been able to sort of read that situation, think that Austin might win it, and there's nowhere else he can really put it, but he didn't. So, but yeah, exactly. And I think by the end we kept commenting that he was, he was drifting sort of deeper and deeper. He's almost playing like right back, right wing by the end, just to try and feel involved and have some influence on the game. So, yes, you don't, you know what his strengths are, but as Mark says, you can't expect him to kind of run and press on his own. I wonder vaguely if the way we're playing with him in the centre and 2 wide players is ideal for him, because if they want to really sort of start closing down from the front, that's asking him to do a lot of work off the ball, I guess. So perhaps we have to think about, again, how we make the best use of him. But we certainly haven't done that for the 2 matches. That's true.
There was interesting chat between him and some people in the town end at the end of the game, which was quite an interesting few minutes, where they ended up sort of having a lively discussion and then chanting his name. So all finished well. But I think he was making the point that they weren't happy with the way things went either, which is what Chris was saying earlier about hospitality. Malcolm says, have the club given up on the playoffs already, advertising use of the County Ground pitch between the 15th and 23rd of May? I would imagine they did reach the playoffs. That might change. Neil says, Wakeling's lost complete confidence playing in a position he's clearly not comfortable in. You can't keep playing from the back when your opposition are playing in the high press. We're not good enough to do, and it's predictable. Kevin says, playoffs miles away. Signed a 22-year-old today. Don't panic. All will be okay. Our season is saved. Yeah, signings, Phil. Now, I'm not going to go down the slagging anybody off route, because I don't think that's fair, because the person that people have been slagging off is not here to defend it. So let's not do that. Let's just say, what about signings?
I think Sandro has misread Division 2 completely in terms of the style of player you need to get out of it. We've already talked this evening about physical players, that we lack that. To looking at the Charlie Austin situation, many centuries ago, I ran Swindon Schools football and I had one Paul Rideout playing for me. And I realised he was not an out-and-out centre forward. I played a big fella up alongside him. He said, thank you very much, went and scored 25 goals. But the big man was taking the pressure off him. And I just think with Austin, I don't know whether Jephcott can play that role. When he came on at Newport, Jephcott was just in behind Austin, it seemed, for a while. And he was, helping to push forward a bit there. But it is getting the right physique for Division 2. And all the teams we play seem to be physically much stronger than we are. And we sign Weaklings. The first thing I did when I saw the picture of our new signing today was try and assess how tough he is. Because, that's what we're crying out for. We've mentioned Grant already. In Division 2, you've got to have somebody who will break up the play.
Yeah, interesting. Jody, this is from Tony. Jody was so down from his interview. Old guy, me in his 80s. It's no good to have a ship without an engine by selling Gladwin, Reed, McDonald, the captain and vice captain. Is he right? Squad is so small in height, no dominant centre half, no defender over 6 foot, League Two football, and they all have a giraffe or two with physical presence. You just said it's Blake Tracy playing totally out of position. Looked like a team Saturday that had never played together. There is a point, Anna. I guess you've got to start. I mean, Kane came close, didn't he, at the post just before half-time? How ironic that would have been, because that was one of those moments when you went, wow, we could have gone in 1-up. It's extraordinary. But there are some players who are yet to play lots of games. We had the Bristol City Kaji making his home debut as well. So they've all got to try and fit in as soon as possible if they've got, promotion scrap.
Yeah, I mean, we're asking a lot of those young lads, aren't we? Kane and Kaji coming into that midfield and asking them to boss the midfield. I'm not even sure at this point what type of midfielders they're going to be. And it was very much an individual performance, wasn't it, from each of them? I think they're trying their best, but there's a lack of leadership there for them. Charlie's doing his best, I think, to bring the strikers maybe, or to bring Wakeling along with him. But who's calling the shots in midfield? Who's organising that midfield? I just think it's asking too much of those lads. So, McGeekran, bringing him in, fine. We know he's not going to be match fit. He's another youngster. We don't know about his physical presence, as we've just said. And we've really got to have a look at overall what sort of football we're trying to play. We've talked about the Swindon way before, and is it the right way to get you out of League Two? And I think we've known for some time, and some people are starting to see that if you're not going to get out of here by playing possession football, you're going to get out of here by playing the percentages into the box, I think, really. And Charlie's undoubtedly our key man to do that. I'd like to see 2 up front somehow, a proper 2 up front. Somebody to support Charlie properly, and maybe give Wakeling that role again, or even Ademoye. Give him a go. There's been some talk about Ademoye as well.
Well, actually, it's funny enough. There's a message here from Adrian. It says, "Why Kanu and not Tommy? Was it just to put Kanu in the window for future sell-on?" Well, Ademoye got his first goal mark on at Newport, didn't he? And you would think, right, now is the moment maybe to give him a go, because his confidence was low after Barrow. There's no question about that. But he's got his goal. So now, give him a go.
Yeah, I definitely would have given him a go. I wonder whether it was wise to play Charlie for the full 90-plus minutes when you got a game on Tuesday. Took Charlie off last week and Ademoye scored. It made no sense to put Kanu. I don't know very much about Kanu. I'm sure he's a talented young lad, but he's 5'6". He's not going to beat the giants that they had at the back, and Ademoye might mix it up a little bit. I want to go a bit further, Vic, and ask Sandro, if he's listening here tonight, is the aim of this football club really to get promotion this season? Because it does not feel like it.
Why are we aiming all our comments at Sandro? I mean, we said, Vic, we weren't going to talk about Sandro specifically, and I don't think we should, because he's not here to defend him.
I think we should. I definitely think we should.
Somebody is
People need to start answering questions about what ambition this football club has got, because I don't want to accept languishing in League Two for season after season. This will be 6 and 7 seasons.
Let's not lay the blame at someone's door when they're not necessarily setting the directions all on time.
Well, he's the one who signed the players.
Well, Sandro has said that he will come on here and do a longer interview. So,
because promotion was an afterthought. You remember he got asked first and then came back on to apologise and say, "Oh yeah, it is promotion. We've got rid of 2 arguably quality midfielders and brought in 2 midfielders who've got less than 30 games of experience. And we want these lads, like Anna was saying, to take us to the playoffs at least." It's a big ask, you got to say, haven't you? It really is.
Yeah. Anyone know how Johnny Williams is? He looked very groggy walking around the pitch. Well, he's out tomorrow, I guess. That's
concussion.
Yeah. What about that then, Andrew? I mean, we've got 17 games left now. Is that right? 17 big games, and you are expecting younger players to get in this team and drive them forward towards the playoffs at least. I think the playoffs. Let's not worry about automatic. Is this going to work or not?
I do think it's very difficult. Yeah. Quickly on Johnny Williams, I don't think he's feeling particularly well yesterday and possibly today. So again, he has got the sort of bang on the head. So he's in no shape to play tomorrow, unfortunately, which is a great shame given the experience we've come back to. I have to say, if you've got your two sort of holding midfielders there, as it were, and they are kind of babies in football terms. In Kane, who's got half a season with Newport and being on the fringes of Liverpool, and Kadji, who's had a couple of games for Bristol City. I think it's a very big ask given the sort of recruitment, other options we've got, and the players we sold on, for them to come through and kind of see us into the playoffs like that. The window. I think the more we look back, it's hard to find a concrete argument that the window has sort of strengthened the team. I guess if you want experience in midfield, you move Ellis sort of back in there when Joe Tomlinson's fit. So perhaps that takes one of those two out of it. But you are asking a lot of some very inexperienced players, and I think I have some sympathy with what Mark's saying. I don't think I want to see the club become Crew Mark II and have the odd season where it all comes together and you get into League Two out of League One, and then the side gets hoovered off and back down you go again. I'd like to think there are greater aspirations available to us than that. Much as the club has got to find ways to raise money somehow. As you say, you can bring in a body of young players, and I was just sort of having a look at the Richie Wellens side there, and that there was a certain amount of youth in it, and they weren't all the biggest physical players either, but they had a certain amount of kind of streetwise knowledge, I think. But I do remember, to be fair, people complaining that side wasn't always physical enough as well.
Yeah.
They had two goal scorers who scored 45 goals.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I mean, I would say if you look at last season, you haven't got McCurdy's 24, 25, whatever. Jack Payne's 10 from midfield. Tyrese Simpson's 13 before Christmas. That's a lot of goals that we haven't replaced. And it's Johnny Williams is our leading goal scorer. I think it was with 8. Is that right?
Yeah.
Wakelin's probably second with 5, something like that. But that's it, really. I mean, that's not great, is it? When you get into February.
No.
Go on.
No, we are lucky a little bit, haven't we? Because unfortunately, so far, Jeff Cott was doing well up until the Mansfield game, and he hasn't, for whatever reason, he hasn't looked quite the same player since. He hasn't scored since. So that signing, unfortunately, is heading towards a miss, which is a great shame, because I still think there's potential there, but it's looking increasingly less likely we're going to unlock it at this point.
Dan says Town lack that mixture of experience and youth. Fraser Blake-Tracy is not a natural centre-back and is doing more than he can. Early signs in the game were that they were lacking any real attacking ideas and offered no real threat. Defensively, need to be better, as both goals came from very poor marking and the goal scorer had way too much time to shoot and score. Highlight of the day was the Doncaster team coach coming back past the County Ground pub at 6:30 on the back of a breakdown lorry. Thank you, Anthony. I don't suppose they were that happy. Darren says Saturday was awful. I walked out with 17 minutes to go. I'm surprised I lasted that long. But you don't boo your own players, just vote with your feet. Look closely, Austin was barely in the box Saturday as he was having to help out other areas. Right, Phil. Okay, let's move on from Saturday. We all agree it was, well, to use a word, pants. Let's move on, shall we? Where do we go from here? Tomorrow night we got Sutton. What do you want to see at Sutton?
I think to a certain extent, I'm going there with damage limitation in mind, because I think after Saturday, they've got to regain some confidence as a team. Khan, I think, will make some difference coming into midfield. Who he puts in midfield is going to be interesting. Will he risk trying the new signing just for 60 minutes or something like that? There's got to be something to toughen up midfield to go to a place like Sutton. I will be glad to come away with a point. I'm not going there overconfident, but with Swindon, when they're down, is often when they bounce back and get a surprise result.
I know that's the point, isn't it? You never know with Swindon. It could be one of those nights when you come
Yeah.
away thinking, wow, how did we get 3-0 win? I mean, you just don't know, do you, with them?
I'm still recovering from going to Mansfield and us winning
Yeah.
5-2 there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of felt like that when we went to Sixfields, just after Christmas, and we thought we'd get a bit of a hiding there, and it
Yeah.
turned out to be a lovely win with a couple of great goals. But it doesn't feel like that tomorrow. I take Phil's point that it feels a little bit like damage limitation from lots of perspectives, actually, because I think the players, played like a team of individuals Saturday. Can't be feeling great, as Charlie Austin has said. They share our angst, if you like, over the situation and the table. We've only got we had 3 wins since October, and it really feels like even now we're still in a bit of a false position. So I think the teams below us have got games in hand, haven't they? So he's obviously going to bring calm back. He's got to think about the shape at the back, maybe play 3 at the back, because it does allow Hutton and Iandolo to push on a little bit and get some freedom down the wings to put in those crosses. I just think the shape didn't help us Saturday because we were being pulled in all sorts of directions, and we can't afford for players to have 4 games and allow that to happen. So, let's hope that Khan can be a bit of a pivot in midfield and that we'll move the ball more quickly, because Sutton I'm expecting to be a much better side than Doncaster. I thought Doncaster was a pretty poor side and we come to them too readily. I don't think Sutton will be as forgiving, particularly at that little ground of theirs. So not going there with the greatest of hope, I would say.
No, it's interesting, isn't it? Doncaster, of course, moved above Swindon on Saturday with that victory into 9th place. So they did themselves some good. Let's have a look. Sean says, Mark's right. It was poor not to have a Donald or Gladwin experience replacement. The highlight for my 5-year-old daughter Saturday, Joe Tomlinson having his picture with her. You see, that's one signing I don't understand, Mark. I don't get that, because you sign somebody in January and you can't play him this month, as far as I know. That I don't get, really.
Not ready till March. I mean, we liked him, didn't we, when he was here last year? He's a good signing, but realistically, if he's not available to the first week in March, it's going to take a few weeks to get up to speed. So we can't expect too much, I don't think, from Joe Tomlinson between now and the end of the season. And just going back to what both Anna and Phil were saying, what a sad indictment of Swindon Town Football Club that we're going to Sutton, with the greatest respect to them, not the biggest club in the world. We're talking about damage limitation. That is not good, is it? In any way, shape or form. One of my lowlights this season has been when we went to Stevenage and they were singing 2-0 on your big day out. Stevenage, right? We've got to have better ambition than that, haven't we? We can no longer accept languishing in this league. I go back to what I was saying. We need to get out of League 2. And we need to do that as soon as possible. If not this season, it has to be next season. And a concerted effort. And one guy on one of the forums who referred to Swindon Town as an incubator. And I don't want that. I don't want this football club being used as an incubator. This football club has to have ambition to play as a minimum at League One level, and really it should be a championship team with the way that gates have been, increased in the last couple of seasons. This football club is ready, but something's holding it back at the moment. I'm not quite sure what it is.
What is that, Andrew? I mean, to be honest, the thought of going to Salford on Saturday doesn't fill me with a great deal of excitement. I must admit, there's Rochdale to come, there's Hartlepool to come. Much as they're very nice places, I'm sure, but
the music choice is good at Rochdale.
It is good, yeah. I agree with you there. That's one highlight, and there's a good chip shop opposite the road. But apart from that, really, I mean, how many times have we done that trip, and how many times have we been to Hartlepool, and how many times have we been to Salford? And it's just relentless, isn't it? You want to get out and do something different. It'd be really nice to get out of this league.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it feels a bit like there's a wider sort of symptom of things at the top. I think it doesn't. How can I put this? It doesn't feel like a particularly sort of unified ship at the moment. You don't get that sense because so just take footballing wise. One hand is saying we're kind of a selling club. We want to develop players and sell them. The other hand says we need to bring in Charlie Austin now. So I guess you look at things like that and you worry a little bit about whether there's quite that sort of clarity and sense of direction. I mean, there's lots of brilliant stuff going on off the pitch in terms of like reducing the debt. I think the ground thing is a fantastic achievement, but unfortunately, if we finish 11th and you put a balance sheet in a contract or a lease on a wheelbarrow, people are not going to stay and applaud it. So the football side has to come along with that, and it doesn't quite feel like everyone has got everything set to make it all happen at the moment. And we can only hope that there is some sort of clarity at the top, I think.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, the point is, at the end of the day, if your stadium's not up to scratch, but you're top of the league, people don't care that much, really, do they? I think that's the point, isn't it, Phil? It's what you're watching on the pitch, really, that brings you to the club, isn't it? You are part of the club, but you want your side desperately to do well. That's what you want.
I think you're right to say do well, because if we played some very boring football and we're top of the league, we'd have 12, 13,000 people in that ground. They don't care in results term how we're playing, as long as they've got that winning feeling. And going back a little bit, we talked about youth and experience there. I grew up in Exeter, and that as a club has had a big youth policy, but they recognised to get promotion, they had to have some experienced players alongside the youth players. And I think Swindon has not got a great youth record in terms of bringing youth players through from the academy. And we haven't got the experienced players now to bring anybody that we bring in who is youth.
We'll be talking to somebody from the academy in a couple of weeks' time on here, actually. So we'll be finding out how that's going. What happens on the pitch is the club's product. How can the club convince fans to sign up to another season in League Two? With Sandro there doing the same model. We were in League One. Our crowds would be over 10,000, near enough every week. We would be looking at 13 to 14,000, a fair few games looking at the clubs in it. Does Clem have the money to both buy and develop the stadium and build a strong squad? He may not have to worry about his fuel bill, but he's no Abramovich. I don't know what fuel bills are like in Australia, really. Mark talks a lot of sense. We were essentially playing in the equivalent of National League North. Well, as we've mentioned, Rochdale, Hartlepool, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on, it goes on. I've heard a lot of people say they're not getting season tickets next year or travelling to away games as they're fed up with going to the same places and not prepared to do it anymore. That's worrying. How worrying is that, Anna?
Yeah, I think there are some worrying things on and off the pitch. So if you look at the example of Salford, right? So Salford came up from the National League 5, 6 seasons ago now, 4, 5, 6 seasons. They've thrown a lot of money at the squad. They put a lot of money into signings, wages, etc. They haven't got out of this division. They keep rolling that dice, but they're throwing money at it. I think what we're doing is we're rolling the dice in a quite an uncoordinated way. It feels like that from the perspective of the type of signing we're bringing in. It feels like that from the perspective of the type of manager we're bringing in. Not that I'm criticising the appointment of Morris particularly. It feels like that from the perspective of the sort of communication we're getting out of the club. So if you look back at a couple of years ago when Clem came in and Rob Angus came in, which was great, great things to happen to our club. They said that one of the things they wanted to achieve was to be top of that fan engagement index. So yes, the advisory board, great communication and great engagement with the fans on that level. But I still feel there's something lacking around communication and structure, that we're not, we get great periods of silence, don't we, from the club, or we get nothing from the club for long periods. We saw that when Lindsay wasn't he leaving. We saw it when Morris wasn't not being appointed. We're seeing it now a little bit with Ed Brand. We don't get any information about why players have left, and I get to some extent why that is. Did Gladwin leave, or did he want to leave, or was he pushed? So I just feel like there's, like Andrew said, we're not all pulling. We're trying to pull in a direction, but it doesn't feel like that's the story that's coming from behind the scenes, to my mind. And much as I want to get out of League Two as well, I want to get out of it and not be back in it.
Yeah, very much so.
it feels like if we'd got promoted last season, maybe things would have been different. Maybe Ghana would have stayed. Maybe things would have been different. But I don't want to go up just to come down again in a year's time or 2 seasons time. I want to go up. I want to have a proper structure at the club that feels sustainable, and it also feels like we're developing some continuity. And I don't get that feeling at all at the moment. So I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but I don't want to go up and come back down.
No, great fan base home and away being shortchanged. Mr. Morfuni wanted bums on seats and got that. Time we got out of this league and gave back to the fans for the loyalty given. The only good news about Salford, they only charge £10 for OAP, fan-friendly prices. Looking forward to that. Great. The season was a big opportunity. The quality of this league is dreadful at the moment. Next year will be harder with the likes of Wrexham, etc. That is a point mark, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, my goodness, they'll have money to spend. They ain't going to mess about in League Two, are they? They're looking to go up. Notts County look as though they're going to come up. Yeah. I mean, the point that Anna makes is a really good one, because every year we go up. The first thing I always say is, let's hope we don't go back down again. And guess what? We end up going back down again.
Yeah, I'll change what you said slightly, but when you say every year we go up, because we haven't been every year. Have we?
All right. Fair enough.
It's been once in 6 or 7 seasons. And I'll go back to season tickets. And, season ticket holders, as we know, the lifeblood of the club. I think it's over 4,000, 4,500. Andrew might be able to confirm the current season ticket holder number. But you are not going to sell season tickets on the back of what we saw on Saturday, especially the first half. People will not watch that style of football. Phil's right to an extent that, winning teams breed success, and winning teams will get people through the turnstiles in big numbers. But we want to be entertained as well. You're not entertained by people passing it round the back endlessly for 45 minutes and more. That is not entertainment. We must go forward. I'm not advocating for 1 minute us being a long ball team, because I don't think anybody wants that. But we must pass. Jody Morris said pass with a purpose. Let's start seeing it. It's a big ask for the fella to come in, even with his relative experience at his various levels, and get this team playing in the way he wants to in 17, 18 games. It really is.
I don't have a problem with Route 1, you see, because one of the best moments from Saturday was the long ball played forward towards Wakefield. It was.
But I don't mean a hoofball team. I mean, he did say encouragingly in his post-match interview, he did say we need to mix it up, and we do. Every side needs to mix it up. It's almost become at times the Swindon way doesn't involve playing any long balls, and that, as we know, is an absolute nonsense. Man City, one of the best teams in Europe, play long ball from time to time. Goals are scored from their goalkeeper kicking at 80 yards down the pitch. That's, you mix up your play so that you don't become too predictable. Otherwise, like Doncaster did, they just sit in a shape. They do a job on you all the time, don't they?
Actually, one of the best goals of last season was Davison's, if you remember. Our keeper knocked it. He was alongside the keeper. Keeper knocked it long. Davison ran onto it, smacked it into the net. Brilliant goal. Yeah. Absolutely fabulous. So nothing wrong with Route 1 per se, I would say, but not all the time. I take the point you're making. Neil says, we've not heard from Clem or Rob for ages. I'd be happy to lose, assuming we gave it a go out on the pitch. Every team has to stay within the EFL spending guidelines, so clubs aren't spending more than they generate. Yeah, EFL spending guidelines, Andrew, discuss.
Oh, great. I think everyone's got to stick to a sort of percentage of their revenue ultimately, haven't they? So you would hope that Swindon would be in a better budgetary position than other sides, but I'm not sure that's always the case. So it is there. You have got to work within that, which Wrexham don't have to at the moment this season. But if they come up, and thank you for Luke Williams for holding them off so far, they won't. But again, in Stock, I suppose we look at Stockport. Stockport have got the kind of decent crowd numbers, having finally got some momentum going to be able to spend pretty healthily. If we look ahead to next season, you would imagine that Wrexham and Notts County, if those two came up with a bit of tradition and history and momentum behind them, would do the same. So it's a thing to bear in mind. You would like to think it would help Swindon, wouldn't you, as one of the clubs for the bigger attendance?
Yeah, you would. John, hello, John. One of our big fans up in the north. for him. Salford, £10, 10-mile round trip, free bus from Trafford Park. What's not to like? Fair point. If you live in that particular part of the world, we'll see you on Saturday, John. If we finish mid-table this season, and I think we will, it'll be the first season for many a year we've either not been involved in promotion or relegation, the perennial roller coaster. I mean, Phil, I was thinking about this the other day. Is this the season we should have had last year? Is it the wrong way round?
I think in development terms, I think if we'd had this season, last season, and then this reverse round, we would have been in a stronger position with the club now under good chairmanship and money's there to support going further. But I just wanted to ask the question. Swindon charge some of the highest prices for admission in our league. We have some of the biggest crowds in our league, yet the Crawleys and Stevenages and so on seem to be able to sign players that we can't. And as a club, it doesn't add up really, that we keep complaining about we haven't got the money. And whatever season we're order the seasons are in, without the right investment in the right players, we ain't going to go up.
I mean, Sean says, unless we have a rich backer, can't get my head around clubs like Accrington can be above us in the EFL. You see, I don't have a problem with clubs like Accrington being above us because they're on merit. I mean, it's that simple, isn't it? I mean, they've got there because they got there. So they are where they are. Why don't we get it to Hutton quicker? Seems to wait until he's being marked before he's passed you. And at the beginning of the season, we saw those bombs coming in from Hutton, didn't we, with the throw-ins? We don't see that anymore.
You're talking about him taking a long throw?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you look at the height of some of the defences we face, there's very little point, is there? Really? I mean,
yeah, but you've got somebody like Charlie can head the ball, can't he?
Yeah, I understand that. I think there needs to be more focus on trying to free up the space around Hutton. That's what I was talking about. Maybe a back five previously. It's very, very easy for opposition clubs to go, okay, let's cut off the supply line to Hutton or stand a man in front of him, so he's got to play the ball back, and then you cut off 50% of your pipeline into Charlie. So, you'd think that if there's two or three players cutting off the supply line to Hutton or man marking him, then that frees up space elsewhere. But a lot of the time, there isn't a lot of movement, is there, from our attacking bunch? Charlie aside, we need to hopefully, Morris can bring a better player out of Wakeling. We can bring the player out that signed the three-year extension back in October, November, whenever that was, because there must be a better player in there somewhere. But there's got to be more movement. There's got to be more forward thinking from some of those midfield players. And I don't like the way that when we're playing that pseudo three up front, that Wakeling particularly, or Jeff or whoever it is, and it's not criticising them as individual players, but I don't like the way they just continually sit on the shoulder. They've got to mix it up again, as we were saying before. They've got to drop deep, they've got to come inside, they've got to play the channels, they've got to track back as well to support the fullbacks if we're playing a flat back four. So, but Hutton obviously is a key supply line for us, and he has put in some great crosses with his feet and in terms of the long throw. So I think getting him some proper support is a really important thing for tomorrow night for the rest of the season. I think he's been a good player, one of our good signings, I think, from the play season.
4-4-2, Charlie and Addy up front. Adeloy, I guess. Yeah. Prices are too high, says Gerald. Hutton didn't look like he was allowed to cross the halfway line on Saturday. I don't think anybody was in the first half, were they? I see it from a different angle, says Jordan. I haven't got a season ticket this season, but been to quite a lot of home games so far. But £25 is a lot of money for a ticket, especially with the cost of living, etc. I know that football hasn't been excellent consistently, but it gets me out of the house for a few hours. Well, fair enough. Well, that's as good a reason as any. Thing is, Mark, I don't know where are we going to go from here. Right, for the last 10 minutes, let's try and be positive about this. All right, we've all been a bit down, and we're all a bit, And this is from Fifey of the Fools Rush In at 9 o'clock. Don't forget. How many times can we say, if not this year, then next? Last year was a wasted opportunity. Danny, hello, Danny. Gunning seemed to get them going and mix it up. Arguably the best game all season against Grimsby. How did it all go wrong when Jody came in? Well, he's had 2 games in charge. Maybe he learns more on Saturday than he does from a lot of games you'll see when we possibly win. So we'll find out what he's learned tomorrow, won't we? So where do we go from here then, Mark? Let's try and be positive. Are the playoffs still on?
In theory, yes, they are, because we're only 3 points outside them. We're 42 points, and I think the 7th place has got 45. So, yeah, they are certainly within reach. Yeah, we could. A team from probably below the playoffs, one team is going to go on a run, a little bit like Bristol Rovers did last year, probably, and that could be us. It's difficult to envisage that. I'm sorry not to be too positive, but it's still within reach, definitely. I just think we need to play differently, don't we? And Anna's point about 3-5-2 or even 4-4-2. Get somebody up with Charlie Austin, get somebody up working with him, knockdowns and all that kind of stuff. Actually, the ideal player to play off Charlie is Hepburn Murphy, because in that game against Grimsby, it's no accident, I don't think, that suddenly the Grimsby defenders look terrified because there's somebody with pace running at them, which has not happened all season. So it's a real shame that the Newport players play acting, where apparently he mysteriously got pushed in the face, even though it was in the chest, resulted in Hepburn Murphy getting the 3-game ban. That was a real shame, that, I think, because he looks a player to me. So he would be ideal. I know he's only banned for 2 more games now. Get him back in probably and play 4-4-2 and give it a go. You've got to give it a go, haven't you, at the very least, to give the fans something to shout for and to cling on to. And we thought we were dead and buried last season, didn't we? When we were 11th with 4 games to go, and we won 4 games on the trot, and we got in there. Yeah. So who knows? Yeah.
No chance, says Rob. No experience in the side, say Johnny Williams and Charlie Austin. What about is Hepburn Murphy injured as well, Andrew, or is he just suspended?
Just suspended.
Just suspended, right? So he should be back after
Salford.
Yeah. Playoffs still on, Andrew?
I obviously not if they play like they did on Saturday, but if let's do the case for optimism, I guess. We've still got an exceptional striker for the division. As long, you have to serve him a bit, but as long as you serve him, I think we've already seen enough to know that he could easily go on a run of scoring for 6 or 7 games in a row without any real problems. So that's a massive point. You've still got Williams, who's one of the best creative midfielders in the division, and hopefully you've got a manager who does at least appear to have a clear idea about how he wants to play, even if it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get it right. So if you can get all those to click, if he can understand how to get the service to Austin, then maybe it can still happen. But it's probably going to take like 10 more wins, I think. So
well, we've had
difficult but not impossible.
We were talking about the stats earlier, weren't we? 3 wins since October: Grimsby, Northampton, and Barrow. 1 win in 7 at home. So those wins are hard to come by, to be fair. Mark says, let's be positive. I'm very excited about the midfield of Khan, Kane, and the youngster from Bristol. We've got Charlie, and if we can get the ball to him, we'll get goals. Let too much experience go to make the playoffs, says Sean. Phil, your thoughts on the playoffs?
It's possible. We need 3 or 4 wins on the trot to get momentum going. And we haven't achieved that this season, have we? Don't think we've achieved 3 wins on the trot yet. So we've got to get some momentum going if we're going to reach the playoffs now. And it is tight enough that if we did get 3 wins on the trot, you never know what can happen. And other teams then start panicking who are around us, and you drive into that opportunity. But we do need to bring into our play some surprise. We're too predictable, aren't we? And that's what we need, is the surprise element. Yes, some long ball, to not always pass it across the back, really go for it. And we do, Hampton Clark's pace could be crucial because we haven't had a pacey winger for a long time.
No. Next couple of games, massive, says Sean, nothing less than wins required. Do managers have time in this day and age? It's a results business. It's annoying when we get free kick inside. Instead of pushing some players up and putting the ball in the box, we pass it short. We tend to be very wasteful and poor from free kicks. Playoffs, Anna. Are you a pro or against, as it were?
Oh, I'm really for the playoffs, to be honest. I always want to get automatic promotion, but that's out of reach this year. You know, the math says it's doable. We have got to put that string of results together, as Phil mentioned, and the next two games, these two games, tough ones against Sutton and Salford, are going to be so important in that context. I think it's rarely a big success having a managerial change mid-season. I don't recall many occasions, you know, when Flitcroft left, for example, when that's worked, and with the Cameo left. You know, it's a big task for somebody new coming in, and not having had the January transfer window all to himself as well. So, but let's you know, did you say to try and be positive? I'm trying to think of something positive. You know, I think it's going to be a big task to get in the playoffs. And to be honest, I did think when you know, when Lindsay left and now Morris has come in, that if we finish in the top 10, I think we'll be doing well. To be honest, I know that'll be a disappointment for everyone, but I see this more as an opportunity for Morris to build his style, hopefully with some output this season, but if not with definitely with an eye on next season. That's where I think our success is going to come, if it's going to come, to be perfectly honest. So but let's not give up hope yet.
No, still a way to go. 17 games. Michael says, just hope they don't put this season ticket prices for the next season, because if they're still in League Two next year, it's going to be a hard pill to swallow to buy a season ticket. Spot on, Phil, says Stanley. So there we go. Playoffs, let's be positive, says Si. Show the boys the Rovers running from last season. We are Swindon. We can do it. Malcolm says nothing less than 6 points from the next two games will do. Just before we go, Ed Brand. Mark, your thoughts? Very strange, isn't it?
Where is he?
Well,
it's very I think we were saying before we came on air, it's very Swindon, you know, to get a manager in who's coming in with an assistant, but the assistant isn't able to join them for 13 or 14 days, and I don't think anybody exactly understands it, because as I understand it, he was there in the stands on Saturday, and he was also at Newport, but he's not actually the assistant manager. So this goes back a little bit to what Anna was saying about clarity and transparency. There isn't any, is there, at the moment? You know, Clem came in riding on this wave, rightly so, with Rob Angus, and it was all going to be honesty and transparency. What's going on? Tell us what's happening, and then people won't speculate. It's much better to do it and be open, isn't it, than speculate about things that aren't actually happening. So I don't know. I don't know where he is. I don't know what's going on.
No, it's very strange. Mike says, there's obviously some popular people on the panel this evening. I wish my phone would ring that often. Andrew...
It's Andrew's broker.
Yeah. Was that Clem ringing? Was he ringing you to tell you the Ed Brand situation? Is that what it was?
No, I think it's just my mum wondering what I'm doing, which is par for the course.
Ed Brand, discuss, Andrew.
Okay. Well, trying to sort of winkle out any information on this is proving extremely difficult.
Because I think Jody Morris said he wished at the presser today, he didn't know what was going on, didn't he? He said,
no. Well, there was sort of suggestion yesterday that it might have taken a step forward, and I don't know whether it has enough for him to be on the bench tonight. It is clear that for some reason it needs sort of EFL approval more than the standard approval, which makes me think, and I emphasize think and not have any clear direction on that, for whatever reason, the sort of structure or whatever contract they want to bring him on is not quite, here you go, Chelsea, have some money, we'll take your under-18 coach and make him the assistant. That's the only thing I can surmise. But it doesn't look great. And if he's not on the bench tomorrow night, I think we will have to try and seek some sort of comment kind of on the record about this, because there's not even very much that's being sort of hinted at behind the scenes. It all seems a little bit bizarre. So that's my best guess, that the whole method they've chosen to bring him in is not quite your bog standard. Here's a contract, Mr. Brown. Please sign this.
Phil, it's Swindon, isn't it? I mean, hey, it's Swindon. That's all you need to know, isn't it?
It could only be Swindon to have both the Ed Brand one and the Lewis Ward one. Should be straightforward ones. And it's dragging on and on. And I do believe Ward is important, because for a goalkeeper to go the whole season and not get injured is unusual. And so we've got to have cover for Bryn. And it's vital. They've decided to go for Ward. We get him. But it only could happen to Swindon to have two curious cases, which are totally top secret, much tighter secrets than the Kremlin keep, isn't it?
Well, those balloons got anything to do with it, I wonder. So Andrew, just the Lewis Ward situation, as I understand it, right? He was released by Sutton. Sutton cancelled his contract or agreed to pay up his contract. Swindon want to sign him, but Sutton don't want Swindon to sign him. Is that right?
That's the broad sort of gist on it, and I will be asking Sutton people tomorrow what on earth's going on. But he's sort of stuck, really, because it's this one of these transfer rules that I don't really understand, especially at our level. Because of course you can only play for two clubs in one season, and he played for Swindon in the cups. Then he went to Sutton. It's not worked out. Sutton for whatever reason, and Sutton, like I say, when Sutton released the information sort of publicly, they said, contract torn up, and I don't see how they can possibly do that without having enough understanding of the rules that if he signs anywhere, he has to sign back for us. And if you've paid money for them and then torn his contract up and you feel you look a bit foolish, tough. But
yeah, because
I'm sure the Sutton version of that will be more nuanced than what I've just said.
Well, Neil makes this point. Wasn't Ward given a free? So why is it an issue? Don't get it. Anna, do you get it?
Well, no, I think, like I said, I think at the time, I think it was reported at the time they did pay something for him. I don't know how much, but but I guess I think the sort of Swindon version is Sutton being a bit eccentric about it. We'll see what the Sutton version is tomorrow.
Well, maybe after we've played Sutton, it might mystically all appear in a
Swindon.
Why don't we just do winner gets Ward?
Winner gets Ward.
Easiest solution.
Maybe that's not a good idea, Andrew. Anna, what's your take on it? It's all bizarre, isn't it? I mean, football is a weird game, and it just seems to be more weird at Swindon than anywhere else.
Yeah, I'd just like a bit more communication, really. I get that there are some things that can and can't be said for, maybe legal or contractual reasons, but we need some more communication from behind the scenes. I feel sorry for Ward as well himself. He's as we said, for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out at Sutton. He's got the opportunity to come back here, and otherwise he'd be playing nowhere, I guess, for the rest of the season. Presumably, also he needs to earn some money, although we don't know how the contract might have been paid up from Sutton. But we just want some clarity, and we do need that. We do need that second keeper to understudy Bryn.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Hopefully they can resolve things, but just tell us a bit more about what's going on. Just be a bit more open with us as fans. We're not stupid, and that the advisory group, great, but that's just a tick box exercise in my view to some extent. We need a broader range of communication and some good vibes coming out of the club on the back of that.
Always happy to have communication with the club on here. It's that simple. Adrian says, would Morris walk away after Saturday? Brand, Ward, Spurs lad not signing on deadline day. Also, say paperwork issues, or is there any deeper issues behind the scenes? I'll leave that one hanging there. Let's get a prediction on tomorrow night, Anna.
Oh, let's score a goal. Let's win 3-2. Let's win 3-2. That's not necessarily my prediction, by the way, but let's just do it.
Johnny Williams got 2 last year, 2 crackers, if I remember right, in that victory there. Mark?
Head says 2-1 win. No, which way round? Hart says 2-1 win, and Head says 3-0 defeat.
Andrew?
I still think we've got some individuals who are better than Sutton's ones. So hopefully one of them, I'll call Austin, will bag a couple more headers and it'll be 2-1. But that's again, that's more heart talking perhaps than anything else.
Phil?
On the bounce from Saturday, 2-1. Prove us all wrong that we're miseries.
Hey, we're Swindon fans. You know, I think we've earned the right, quite frankly, for that. Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. As chairperson, of course, I don't have to give a prediction, so I can sit on the fence quite happily. Quite
you
right.
should, Vic.
Well, all right, I will. Unfortunately, I think we'll lose 2-1, but my heart says we'll win 3-0.
Support like we're gonna win this. Right.
You know, what can I say? Chris, what do you think?
I'm going for a 1-0 win for us tomorrow.
Fair enough.
I'm never right though, so I don't know. Brilliant. Thanks ever so much for that. Very lively discussions, lots of questions. Sorry, viewers, if you didn't get your question asked, because there was hundreds. As Vic said, we will be back next Monday, and we have got the Academy Director on, Jamie Russell, and hopefully one other with him. The Academy is in a good place at the moment, so we wanted to get to the updates and everything, what's happening out there. So they're coming on next week. And 9 o'clock, Falls Rush in. So you've got time to actually tonight. We ran over a bit last week, didn't we? So you've got time to get your cups of teas and get everything ready for that and sit down and watch that. You've got the lovely Joe on tonight as well. So another reason to watch. And we will see you all at Sutton tomorrow and Salford on Saturday.
And we should say thank you to Mark for handling a lot of the questions as well. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. So we all at Sutton tomorrow?
Yep.
Yeah, all at Sutton and Salford. So, okay, so anybody that's watching, if you see any of us, please come up and say hello. And we hopefully will be celebrating a win. So, okay, well, good night, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah.